The greatest of all time, otherwise known as the GOAT. Sports fans around the world love to debate who holds the highest title. From Ronaldo or Messi to Michael or LeBron. This debate has spanned generations and everyone has an opinion. But what about biathlon? Many biathlon fans would be quick to crown Ole Einar Bjorndalen as the GOAT of biathlon. His nickname is literally the king of biathlon after all. But what about the queen of biathlon? Who's the greatest female to ever compete in the sport? Today we will be using historical data and analytics to officially crown the GOAT of biathlon. I'd like to take a moment to thank my supporters on Patreon. A lot of time goes into producing these types of videos, and not only time doing all the research and finding all the clips that you're seeing in these videos, but also time editing and putting the videos together. For as little as $5, you can support my mission of putting more biathlon content on the internet and also get access to exclusive perks, such as exclusive content, early access to videos, and more. Check the link in the description down below. Over the years, there have been many great athletes to compete in the sport of biathlon. Trailblazers, heroes, and legends, all worthy of recognition in their own right. But I knew if I were to separate one above the rest, I would need to narrow my search. So I began my journey of identifying the GOAT by putting a poll on my Twitter page to see what true biathlon fans value in a greatest of all time. The answer was pretty overwhelmingly career achievements. So I began my search by finding the most successful biathletes by career wins. Right off the bat, that led me to three of the biggest names in the sport. Magdalena Forsberg, a Swede, raced the majority of her career in the late 90s and has racked up an impressive number of accolades, including the title of most World Cup victories at 42. Second on the list of most career wins is Magdalena Neuner, a legend of the early 2000s. She was Germany's golden girl, racking up 34 career wins and a slew of championship medals, but we'll touch on that later. Tied with Neuner for most career wins was recently retired Darya Domracheva. Not to be overshadowed by her husband Ole Einar, Darya is not only tied for second on the most career wins list, but owns the Olympics as the most decorated female biathlete at the Games. After doing some extra digging, I felt confident about these three women as possible contenders for the title of GOAT, but I felt like there was someone missing. Obviously, there were many big names not included on this list, but I felt as if there was someone who had quickly accomplished all there was to accomplish in our sport and then retired early. So after looking at winning percentages of some of our favorites, there was one athlete who definitely deserved to be included in this contest. Laura Dahlmeier, a German who boasted a relatively brief 7-year career and racked up a competitive number of wins and podiums in her day. Given her brief career, she was on pace to be just as competitive in these rankings had she stuck it out. Now, longevity and commitment is definitely something that should be considered in the GOAT debate, but you will see that Dahlmeier has all the right to be included in this conversation, and her brief career will be accounted for in my analysis. So with the cohort of elite women narrowed down, it's time to establish the rules of what makes a GOAT. And because this is biathlon, there will be 5 contests. First is career World Cup achievement. These women already stand head and shoulders above the rest in this regard. Now, a GOAT must certainly be among the best of their time, so the next criteria I will judge is Crystal Globe wins. But what is a GOAT if they can't win what it matters? So the third criteria will be performance at major championships. Now, an age-old debate when it comes to GOAT is how athletes would do head-to-head. Luckily for us, we have math and statistics to help us get to the relatively accurate depiction of how athletes might stack up against each other. So for the fourth criteria, I will analyze who had the most dominant season in their prime. And finally, I'm going to take this one step further and evaluate who might win in a head-to-head race by comparing their most dominant one-off race performances. Now, while I'm confident in my mathematical analysis, I do believe that certain criteria should be weighted more heavily than the others. So I will weight these different criteria to favor globes and majors slightly heavier, as I believe whoever is crowned the GOAT should be a winner. So we already established that for World Cup career, Forsberg takes an early lead in the standings with her 42 wins. However, it's important to note how difficult it is to stand atop the podium. Many times, an athlete can put together a perfect race and find themselves finishing in second or third. So for that reason, included in career performance, I will also consider career podiums and podium percentage in my analysis. Of these 4 women, Forsberg still leads the charge in podiums and cements herself as the winner of this target. As expected, the runner-up is Neuner. After ranking the standings and tabulating the results, the Magdalenas have an early lead in the GOAT debate. Now, if you thought Forsberg had an impressive World Cup career, wait until you hear about how many globes she won in her time as a biathlete. Forsberg was the overall Crystal Globe winner in 6 of her 8 seasons on the Biathlon World Cup, and actually won 2 small globes for each season she raced. She won twice as many Crystal Globes as Neuner, and easily dominates this target. While Domracheva and Dahlmeier did each earn the highest World Cup honor in their time as biathletes, Forsberg's trophy case easily gives her the win in this category. Now with this strong start, you're probably thinking, Magdalena Forsberg is easily the GOAT. And as I was doing my research, I was thinking the same thing. But what separates Michael Jordan from LeBron James, or Novak Djokovic from Roger Federer? It's major championship victories. And once we start looking at how our biathlete heroes perform at the highest stage, the conversation becomes a little bit more interesting. Forsberg ties Neuner with most world championship wins with 6 titles, and leads Dahlmeier with 12 podiums. However, given the fact that Dahlmeier participated in far less world championship races, her podium percentage makes her performance at world championships much more impressive. However, if you ask any biathlete, what's the biggest event in our sport? Hands down, everyone will say the Olympics. And this is where Forsberg comes up short. Although she does have 2 Olympic medals to her name, Forsberg's record comes up far short compared to the others who each have multiple gold medals. Domracheva leads the biathlon world with 3 gold medals, and the Germans tie for second with 2 golds apiece. Each of these 3 women also have some silvers and bronze to bolster their resumes. Given the importance and prestige of the Olympic Games in our community, the Olympic performance is weighted slightly heavier than World Championship performances. And considering Magdalena Neuner's ability to perform when it counts, she wins this target by a slight margin, and actually moves ahead of Forsberg in the standings. Although Forsberg can claim to have won every title our sport has to offer, she cannot claim to be an Olympic champion, the biggest title in our sport, and a title our GOAT must possess. Now, Johannes Tingus Bo's performance this season is reminding us that there's winning, and then there's winning by so much that you're on a completely different planet from your competitors. There have been plenty of seasons where the overall Crystal Globe comes down to one final race. And while those seasons are very exciting, it's hard to label someone as a GOAT if they're barely squeaking out wins. GOATs are remembered for their dominant performance during their prime. So for this target, I went back and compared our GOAT contenders' most dominant seasons, and taking an early lead with her 2001 performance with 14 wins, 19 podiums, both World Cup records, is Magdalena Forsberg. Neuner and Dahlmeier had impressive showings with 10 wins in 2012 and 2017 respectively, but Forsberg once again takes the top spot. Now finally, it's time to put to rest the age-old debate. Who would win in a head-to-head race in their prime? Luckily for us, Real Biathlon performance rankings can be used to compare performances across many seasons and many generations. Basically how it works is it takes all the stats from every competitor in every race and rates an athlete's performance on a given day to how others performed. It takes into account everything from ski speed to range time to hit percentage. Here's an example. If an athlete wins by 2 minutes over their competitors, yeah, it would be among the largest margins of victory we've ever seen, but maybe this athlete shot well on a windy day. Is their performance dominant, or is it lucky? One could argue that on a day when everyone is performing their best and the athlete still wins by a decent margin is a much more dominant performance in the long run. Real Biathlon Performance Score takes all of this into account. So the first metric we will compare in this category is best one-off race performance. And who takes the cake in this one? Darya Domracheva. Domracheva's on-hold sprint from 2015 is among the most dominant performances Real Biathlon has on record. In this competition, she shot clean and skied away to a 26-second victory over her competitors, including Laura Dahlmeier. However, this head-to-head conversation always comes down to who would have performed better at their best. So for this, I went back and found each of these athletes' best skiing results, best shooting results, and best range times to create their fictional best possible result. And after calculating all the numbers, Domracheva comes out on top again. Now, she was followed very closely by Neuner, and in my head, I like to imagine this fictional race coming down to a sprint to the finish line. So Domracheva takes this target, but who is the GOAT? Well, after my analysis, I feel confident giving the title of Biathlon GOAT to Magdalena Neuner. The battle between Neuner and Forsberg was tight. Forsberg obviously had Neuner's number on almost all of these metrics, but Forsberg came up short at the Olympics. In my opinion, it's tough to tell a non-biathlon fan that our greatest of all time isn't even an Olympic champion. But I don't know, what do you think? Did I do Forsberg dirty here? Is there someone I neglected to even consider? Leave a comment down below and let's keep the GOAT conversation rolling. But in my book, Magdalena Neuner, you are the greatest of all time.